Hi, Tom. How are you doing?
Hi, Ashley.
Welcome back to my channel, everyone. My name's Ashley Aireonna. I've been doing this stream for almost, I think this might be my
Three years.
third season. And I still forget my intro. So that's really great. Really appreciate everyone joining us and joining the wonderful Tom. How are you doing, Tom?
I'm doing great. How are you, Ashley?
Learning how to speak, but slowly recovering on air as we go.
Minor impediment. Okay.
No, I'm doing really good. I think a couple weeks ago I was telling you this is my first. I like to say I'm from the Bay Area because if you grow up in Sonoma County, if you grow up in a 2-hour distance from San Francisco or Oakland, I think you like to claim the Bay Area.
Sure.
And I remember when I grew up, people being like, "That's not the Bay Area," and I was like, "Yes, it is," just
Yeah, it
because
is.
it made you feel like special and cool to be a part of the culture. Um, if you live in Sonoma County, which is actually where I'm from and where I grew up, it gets hot and warm, and the summers are absolutely beautiful. In my opinion, some people it's maybe too hot for. But I spent, all my childhood in Sonoma County, where it would be between 80 and 100. And then after high school, I spent the last 15 years in Southern California, where it was also beautiful and sunny. And then this year, in an extremely wonderful, beautiful area, and I'm feel lucky and happy to be here. But I've spent a lot of time in Oakland, which is so much nicer and more beautiful than people give it credit for. In July, it was insanely cold and looked like it was going to pour down rain every single day.
Yeah.
The sun did not come out all of July. It was June, it was beautiful. July, I didn't understand it. As you might be able to tell, August, we're only 4 days in, but the sun has been out. So I feel like the good weather is positively affecting my mood. I'm
Oh,
loving
sure.
the warm August in Oakland
Yeah.
vibe. So
Well, Oakland being that close to the water, it tends to have a different microclimate. The Bay
yeah,
Area is filled with microclimates.
yeah,
Yeah. San Jose is way hotter than the rest of the Bay. The North Bay where you are has its own microclimate too. So it's just you have to know what to expect in your area, but Oakland is more cloudy. I grew up in the East Bay. I grew up in Castro Valley,
got it.
so I know what that's like. It's different. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not as warm as you would
And
expect
even
elsewhere.
in Oakland, like I'm staying in the hills right now, and sometimes it'll be sunny, like the fog will kind of wear off around, like 11 or something, and it'll
Hmm.
be sunny, but then I go to the gym. I don't know if I should like say it, but 10 minutes downhill from where I'm at, and it'll be like cloudy there. So it's kind of funny how quickly, you can have a temperature change. We'll get on it in a towards one of our later topics is going to be I was on assignment, which basically
There you
just
go.
means I was at Levi's, went to some practices and stayed in Santa Clara for a little bit. And Santa Clara it's very similar to Sonoma County. It was like 85,
Yeah,
no wind, very hot, very warm,
easy
which
bake oven. Yeah.
yeah. And I feel like those things, if you live there, maybe it gets a little tiring. But for me, who was coming out of a very cold July, I was like, yes.
Ah,
I was like, feel the,
you got what
the
you
song,
needed.
feel
You
the
got the
rain on
jolt of
your
energy from the
face.
sun. That's a good thing.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I was,
I lived for a couple years in North San Jose. I was like a mile and a half from Levi's, so
oh,
I
nice.
know what that weather's like.
It's nice. And for people who have been to Levi's Stadium, there's like a really cool trail on the sideline that like goes throughout Santa Clara. I think it's like five miles or something.
Hmm.
Where they have all these like little waterways. I don't know if it's like water clearance or water system or something, but they really did it. I feel like they're trying to make, Santa Clara nicer. Because it's kind of the
Good
middle of
luck.
nowhere. But they added, beautiful flowers and all
Santa
this, and
Clara
so it was
nicer,
really pretty.
and
Yeah, it's not
not
very
really
nice,
going to
but
work.
there's a really pretty walkway. Um, so if you're going, because my sister, she went to the Morgan Wallen concert, which I know George Kittle, Trent Williams,
Yeah,
Ricky Pearsall went on day two. The artist walked out with Steve Young on night one. And she said, because of all the traffic, which I'm sure it's similar for games, for the traffic of the concert, she parked almost by like Whole Foods, which is about a 15-minute walk. But there's instead of like having to go all the way around Great America, there's like kind of a straight little behind the way
Yeah, there's
pathway.
a straight shot walkway. Yeah,
Yeah. So I thought
I've walked there.
I felt
It
excited.
helps.
I
Yeah,
felt
it's
excited
cool to know.
scoping out the system and stuff
Yeah,
and learning
yeah.
about it. But we'll get more into what I saw a little bit later. For right now, I want to get into the updates from day 11 of training camp. The way that they've been structuring it is they have one off day and then they have 3 days on. It's the first day back from their off day is usually a medium day. Second day is a hard day. Third day is a kind of deload day. And which, by the way, I found interesting as someone who I love to work out and I've always like had some sort of like gym workout split. I think a lot of people think the day after your rest day is the day that you want to go as hard as possible. Kyle did a good job at kind of explaining, yes, you have more energy, but because your body isn't like in the groove yet, you actually want that to be that day to be more of a medium day. And it's the following day, once you've kind of like, you're still rested, like you're not sore and run down yet.
Right.
You have energy, but you're not like fresh, brand new. So you have less injury risk to set it up that way. So,
Yeah.
anyways, the way they've
Best.
been doing it is 3
Yeah.
days on, 1 day off. This week is a little different because they have Broncos. They have a joint practice with the Broncos before the preseason game. That is going to be on Thursday. So they had an off day yesterday, and then they had 2 day or the day before that. They had 2 days of work. Tomorrow's an off day. Then they'll have their longest day. I think Kyle said it's going to be 40 snaps. They've been working
Okay.
their
Building up.
building their themselves up to having that many reps in one practice. So that's coming up. Like I said, tomorrow's an off day. Day after that, which I'm going to be interested. There's so many injuries. I'm going to be interested in how they kind of format that. For
Yeah.
those who weren't here last year, they actually canceled their joint practices due to
Right.
injuries. And seemingly this year, I feel like they have more injuries, but they just probably don't want the narrative to be like, we have to cancel again.
Right.
Uh,
Right. It's not a good look for the organization to be a
no.
walking mash unit, but here we are. It's Cal can say that he understands the flow of when they need to go hard, when they need to go medium, and all that, but best laid plans of mice and men. It's just look at the results. You're injured all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's the most injured team in terms of player games missed over the last 10 years? Niners.
Yeah. There's some, to
That's a
me, there's,
problem. It's why has nothing been done
yes,
about
through
the
the training
strength and
staff or something.
conditioning people? I
Yeah.
don't get it. I don't get it at all. But oh well.
Especially because a lot of, I mean, and knock on so much wood, and this is good, like a lot of this isn't like a broken bone or something. It's soft tissue injuries,
Soft
which
tissue a lot.
is more has to do with like not warming up properly, not being in shape for whatever amount of exercise you're trying to do. To me, soft tissue injuries are more about preparation and can be more easily managed with tweaks to your training regimen than
In
something that's
theory.
more fluky where like if you break your arm, that's kind of like that can just be like horrible luck.
Right.
But pulling a hamstring, pulling a calf, stuff like, hip irritation, to me, that's a little bit more on like how your training program is structured. So I agree with you. And it's been a consistent issue. Honestly, I think it's been a consistent issue throughout Kyle Shanahan's tenure with the 49ers, but across multiple, because he actually did have different training staff a
Yeah.
couple years ago. He switched over.
Yeah.
So
Well, as Foot says in the chat, they did fire people. It's just that they haven't hired the right ones yet. Is that they continue to have this problem. And
yeah,
so
that's
something's going on in terms of what are you doing in your process, and can't you go to another team and adopt best practices from them? Find the team that hasn't been injured as often. Talk to
yeah.
them about their processes in camp, preseason, etc. Part of this is the draft, that they will draft guys that are hurt. Part of this is process. So it would be nice if once they would get somebody that's strength and conditioning where he actually makes a difference in making them healthy.
I
Be a good
completely
twist. Yeah, last hire
completely
was a
agree.
hockey trainer, Eric. Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, what are you
Yeah.
doing? Yeah. Yeah, this isn't the Sharks, it's the Niners. Wrong place in San Jose. Yeah, come on.
Ah,
So anyway.
Okay, for speaking of injuries, though, I do want to give an update. Most importantly, and the thing that I titled the stream because I think it's important, Nick BOSA. Today he was working on the sideline with a trainer, which is kind of what they have guys who are rehabbing from an injury do. Nick BOSA has now, this is his third practice that he's missed. Kyle Shanahan was actually asked about this yesterday when he had only missed 2 practices, and there was some confusion because obviously they gave guys like Trent Williams, Christian McCaffrey veteran rest days. So I think the first day that Nick was out, people actually didn't report it as an injury. They just assumed that it was one of these veteran things. Then he missed 2 practices in a row. I think it might have been Matt Mayoko who asked about it yesterday. Kyle really brushed it off, didn't say what the injury was, but said he would be back today. He was not back today. Hopefully he's okay. We don't have any sort of diagnosis on what the injury is, which is kind of frustrating to not, be able to know what's going on and to be able to know how serious it is. I assume that it's not something that's going to keep him out for months or even weeks, being that he was on, the sidelines
Yeah, he
practicing.
was still working. He just wasn't
Yeah.
practicing. So I don't think it's that concerning for Bosa in this instance, but it's frustrating that Kyle won't give us the full info, or even when he does, given his history, we can't necessarily trust it.
I mean, he said he was going to be back today, and then he just was not.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But okay, so Nick Bosa was out. Cornerback Renardo Green was out with the hamstring, soft tissue. Juwan Jennings still out with the quote unquote calf. What's interesting about the calf injury, you and I think last week talked about is this a real calf injury? If so, you can't pay him. Is this is Juwan Jennings now holding in after showing up and participating? It is semi-coincidental that the day that he went out with his calf injury was the day that the pads finally went on. That was the day that I assumed they were going to give him his contract. They didn't end up giving him a contract, and then he was out with the calf injury. I've kind of gone back and forth with, do I think this is real? He did miss some of minicamp with a calf injury. I think it was Eric Branch asked Kyle after, how am I blanking? The guy, Richard Sherman. Richard Sherman, obviously very in touch with the 49ers and with their players. He went on his podcast and said that he felt like if the 49ers were to reward Juwan Jennings and pay him, that his calf would feel better and he'd be participating the next day. And he didn't say, I'm hearing this from Jennings, but I don't know if that's a guess or if that's some inside information. If that's true, it's clearly not a real injury. It's a holdout. So hearing that, Eric Branch, 49ers beat reporter, asked Kyle Shanahan, is this a real calf injury? Is it not? Kyle kind of blew him off. He said, I don't know. You got to ask him. He told us it was real. When a coach says, I don't know, you have to ask him about a player who's holding out and they're not putting out in front of the media. That's kind of frustrating. It's you have to ask him. It's okay, well, you're in charge if we see him. We can't ask him unless you bring him out. Are you going to bring him out? If you're not, can you tell us? So
yeah, it's a way of avoiding the whole thing, which is what Kyle would prefer to do. Kyle would prefer to just never show up at the podium, period, and just say, I'm going to designate our PR person to talk about the injuries for the rest of the season. That's what Kyle would prefer. Kyle doesn't want to have to talk about any of this.
No.
But, it's part of the grind of being an NFL coach. You got to do it.
I agree. But so up in the air with Juwan Jennings on if he's going to get a new contract, if he actually has a calf injury or not. I will say the 49ers are trying their best to make it seem like Juwan Jennings is not super necessary. I think about 2 weeks ago, even 3 weeks ago, I was like, damn, Juwan has a lot of kind of power with everyone who's injured, and the fact that he's might need to be their number one wide receiver to kind of start the season. Now, if he was on the field, I still think he would probably take over that role, at least until some of the other veterans get healthy. But in practice so far, Ricky Pearsall, since he's been back and healthy, has looked really good. Robinson, the guy who they signed.
Yeah, DeMarcus Robinson from the Rams.
Now he might. It's still interesting.
He'll get a suspension to begin the year. I think that's
It hasn't been announced, but
no. The league hasn't
John
announced
Lynch
anything,
has
but
alluded to
usually
it.
it's 2 to 3 games.
Yeah, Matt Mayoko has alluded to that. John Lynch has alluded to that. So even though it hasn't been announced, I do think he's going to be out in the beginning of the year. However, he's looked really good in practice, as well as, like I said, Ricky Pearsall. I don't know if that puts some pressure on Jet. Like, I don't know if the 49ers are trying to say, like, look, we don't need you. We have these guys that can kind of fill in for your role.
Yeah, I think Juwan can see through that and say, "You don't need me, really."
Yeah.
He knows better than that, and so does the team. It's just you look at this and say, "All right, you don't have Ayuk. Who is your primary blocker at wide receiver?" It's Juwan Jennings.
I agree. Yeah.
Even in the blocking role, he knows that he's very valuable to this team. So the Niners can say that, they can pretend that, but Juwan knows the truth. So do they. It's just a matter of getting to the right number, and hopefully that gets done soon.
Yeah, two people kind of waiting to see who's going to blink first, right?
Yeah, it's a stare down.
It'll be interesting watching these wide receivers that have been shining in camp. And I say shine, they've been, looked good in camp, but in situations where I feel like they've been propped up to look good.
They're being
by the way,
showcased.
looking good is still impressive. Like you can, just because you're put in a good situation doesn't mean you're going to execute well. So props to Ricky, props to Jordan Watkins for actually rising up to that occasion. But when you're going against, opposing defenses who aren't necessarily putting you in the best position, can you continue that? I think it'll be really interesting to see them, but this is where I'm confused. I don't know who's going to be participating in, obviously in the joint practice, they're going to be participating, but in the preseason game prior to this year, they've had like third and fourth stringers be the guys who are participating in the first preseason games, not starters. But right now, they have so many people injured. I feel like George Kittle's going to be like playing. You know what I mean? That might be
I don't think they will, but I get what you're saying, though, is that because there's so few bodies, they're going to have to play guys that matter. I don't think that'll be true, though. I think they'll find people. It's part of why they sign camp bodies.
Signing people. Yeah.
So I don't think that'll be an issue. I wouldn't expect any of the core players to play in the first preseason game.
Got it. Moving on, we're getting through them slowly. Wide receiver Jacob Cowing still out with that hamstring injury. The last time Kyle was asked about Cowing, he suggested that the Raiders game, which is the 16th, I think the joint practice is on the 14th, so the game is on the 16th. Was kind of something they were spotting for Jacob Cowing to return, not guaranteeing. So he's still out with the soft tissue injury on his hamstring. Jair Brown, safety, he's still dealing with an ankle, that ankle that was bothering him last year. He actually got a procedure on it this offseason, still bothering him. That scares me because they're so slim at safety. Later on, we'll talk about position groups. But yeah, Brown not being out there isn't the best. Something that's pretty disappointing after, I think, a pretty good camp so far is Isaac Rendo, running back. He is out with a shoulder. He struggled with a shoulder injury last season. He actually missed a game due to that. So, and he had injuries all throughout college, and he was never even the number one running back in college. He was always a number two. So he's looked good in camp. He can be utilized in the passing game, which with all their wide receiver injuries, I think that whenever Kyle has been prompted to talk about Isaac Rendo's usage and maybe using him in tandem with Christian McCaffrey and stuff, you and I have hypothesized that he'll be used a lot more in that passing game. When the first practice I went to, I saw him catching passes. It stinks that injuries seem to be something that haunt him. There's always going to be a level to how much you can actually utilize him in the run game and target him. He might not even have the body type to get a full number 2 load. He might be like a number 3.
And that's part of the underlying reason for all of these injuries to begin with is that Isaac Rendo's a track guy. He's a sprinter long jumper in high school, good one. And then Louisville, he was mainly a wide receiver or a running back used as a wide receiver. And I spoke on Twitter with Kyle Posey from Niner Nation about this, of saying that track guys don't usually adapt that well to football. And Guerrero is further proof of that. Kyle said that, yeah, linear athletes aren't accustomed to what they need to do in football. It's a different body motion. And I think that's part of this is that when we see Guerrero succeed, it's the track in him. It's open
Yeah.
field
Speed.
go.
Yeah.
It's when he's given a linear opportunity, he can take advantage of it. It's when he's forced to play actual football that he gets injured and has trouble. So that's going to be a problem. And me, diehard track guy, I would love to see the track people succeed in
Yeah.
football. They don't.
I see what you mean.
There's not too many guys that have. Willie Galt, Bob Hayes, of course, but you look at Ronaldo Nehemiah with the Niners. He had a very forgettable career, and he's the world record holder in the 110-meter high hurdles.
Yeah.
It's just track guys don't necessarily adapt that well, and I
It's
think
also like
Guerendo's
kind of
another case of that.
it's also kind of two different skill sets. Like when I've put on a lot more muscle and weight to me since like I'm still love to run. Like I have the endorphins. I love everything about it. But when your main focus is speed and endurance and running every single day, you have to keep like some muscle in your body because you have to be strong enough to push it. If you look at these, especially professional track athletes, they're very, very strong, but it's small, compact muscles. And you don't want to have a lot of extra weight on you. Where in
Right,
football, you want, as much muscle as possible. And you want to be lean enough that you can still be fast, but you want to have a little bit of weight to you so that you can take a bigger pounding, especially
right,
when you're doing something like running back and you're getting hit all the time.
right.
And so you're right.
You need some level of body armor
Yeah,
in order to play football. And track people, their bodies are adapted to be lean and efficient, powerful in the use of linear activity, as opposed to what football calls for, where it's more diverse in the body motion and dealing with the power and everything else.
yeah,
So it's different worlds, and it's
yeah,
very tough for somebody in track to go to football and make a great career. The
yeah.
people who've been great in football that come from a track background are power people, shot disc guys,
Got
as
it. Makes
opposed
sense.
like Michael Carter was a phenomenal shot putter in high school record holder, and an amazing nose tackle for the Niners. He was great. But that's what you need. It's the sprinters like Guerrero that get hurt.
Yeah. And what sucks about him having the shoulder is like when I don't know if fans understand because there has been like a distinction made between padded and non-padded practice. Even in padded practice, they're not fully like tackling you to the ground. I mean, I think D Winters did once like last week. He kind of tackled someone, but it's not full speed at all. You're not supposed to hit your teammates. Like you can do a little more with padded practice. It helps with the one-on-one drills a little bit more, but it's not like actual. They're not going out there. And so for him to have a shoulder injury right now, it's not like he's like going through running drills and there's like guys hitting from every angle and he's getting slammed on the
Yeah,
ground. It's
yeah,
like once you kind of touch a guy, you try to pull off.
yeah. It's not a game simulation, and he's still getting hurt, which tells you
Yeah,
a lot.
exactly. So moving on from Isaac Guerrero, I hope he heals up well. Depending on who you talk to, Nick Wagner reported that Kyle Juszczyk is out with a heel injury. Literally, Kyle Shanahan said that it was an Achilles, and Matt Mayoko has referred to it as an Achilles, but instead of just straight Achilles, it's like a cut on his Achilles. He was in some sort of drill and someone fell on his Achilles, and it's not been made clear if he strained it, if it just got cut, if someone, fell on it and scratched it, but he's missed now multiple practices due to this.
Right.
Once again, this was one of the guys that Kyle Shanahan said was supposed to be out here today. Kyle Juszczyk not out there today. So Achilles, whenever I hear Achilles, I don't care if it's like someone breathed on it wrong. I get a little bit nervous. Hopefully it's nothing, they're just being extra precautious.
Yeah.
But yeah, Kyle Juszczyk out with the Achilles heel. And
As we've
then
seen with CMC, when you have an Achilles injury as a running back, that's a real red flag. It's a concern
yeah,
because you're going to get worse over time because that's the nature of the injury, as you've pointed
yeah,
out a lot. And exactly right in saying so, that it's not an injury that you can deal with over the course of the season because the usage causes the problem.
Yeah.
It makes it worse. I wanted to catch this while it's still good. Tomorrow, Thomas asks in the chat, do you think we've got the wide receivers to beat one-on-one coverage? How do you feel about that this season, despite the injuries? I think the injuries really, they'll sort themselves out by the time we get to the opener in Seattle. I think they'll be healthy enough, and it'll be Pearsall and Jennings as the starters, and we'll see what they can get done. The problem with facing up against Seattle is they have very good, very fast DBs. It's going to make it harder for them to get open. Kyle's going to have to scheme them open. I think the primary receiver, at least in the Seattle game, is probably going to need to be Kittle, because that's 49ers' strength against Seattle weakness. I think that's where he needs to go.
Got it. I mean, Ricky Pearsall has been, yesterday he had a phenomenal practice. He went against Upton Stout a few times. 3 times he beat him. Upton Stout, I thought, did a really good job at like getting closer each time, or he beat him, 2 times. The way it worked was, the first time Ricky Pearsall completely beat him. The second time, Upton Stout, depending on where you were looking, it looked like an interception, but a lot of people said the whistle was blown right before then, where Ricky kind of had it in his hands, but Stout was able to kind of grab it out of Ricky's hands. And then the third rep that they went against each other, Stout broke it up. But Ricky's looked pretty good. Today he lost both times to Upton. He fell the first time, so I don't know if that was more the juke that Upton did on him, or if it was just bad footing on his part. The second time, I think it was definitely the route that he took. He just kind of slipped over himself. But he's looked good. I think today he was targeted 6 out of the first 9 times
Wow.
by Brock Purdy. So they're definitely feeding him the ball a lot, Ricky Pearsall.
Yeah. Well, if they want to build his confidence, I think that's smart. And build a rapport between Purdy and Pearsall. All good things.
I will say I'm still nervous. I'm glad to hear that they're building on their connection. All the cornerbacks haven't really been out there. Today was the first day in quite a while that Diomno Lenore was out there. Yesterday he was out there, but he wasn't actually participating in the drills. He was kind of on the side. Today was the first time he was back practicing with the team, and Ricky didn't go against Diomno Lenore today. So I'm happy that he's looking good against Upton, and that they seem to be, iron sharpening iron. They're, definitely battling. Sometimes Upton takes a win, sometimes Ricky does. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
But, and this isn't a downer on Upton, because I do think he's gonna, he's looked really good. He's gotten a ton of praise just today. Robert Saleh praised him in his press conference. But he is a rookie, and I imagine that the cornerbacks in the NFL are, a little better at this point than he is.
Well, and maybe so, but I think that Stout showed, especially Mobile in the Senior Bowl practices, he was voted the best DB in coverage. That he was the one that was taking on everybody and shutting him down.
So it's promising that him and Ricky are battling.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And one of the keys, and one of the secret keys really in their draft this year, every one of the guys that they drafted that looks like he's got a chance to start was great in power, which is unusual. It's not something the Niners have done before. Stout led all the secondary in bench reps, for example. And so everybody that they picked were really good in the power element of the combine. And I think that's why Stout might have a better chance of getting a good start early, because usually the transition that's difficult is the power aspect of the game. These guys, Stout, Nick Martin, both of them were among the very best at their position group at Indy in the combine in power. And I think that they did that strategically and made the most sense. Another one from the chat, Foot says, see the Niners coming out flat start the season. Surprised that they didn't. Yeah, I've got them losing to Seattle, but to me, that's a matchup thing. It's because they are so bad at safety that I think that's how they're going to lose.
See, I have them win. I have them. I see what you mean, because of the secondary versus wide receiver offensive matchup. I'm going to be interested in seeing how the season starts. I think I originally thought that the offense would start fast and the defense would start slow. I've had more and more confident just from, I've only gone to like 2 practices, but I just have a lot. It's so interesting seeing Robert Saleh back there, the energy he brings, and
No doubt.
this shouldn't be make an impact because these guys are making millions of dollars, so they should play hard no matter what. But I really do think a lot of these players have stepped up their like presence, like the physical energy that they have in practice with Robert Saleh on the sideline. So it'll be interesting for me to kind of see the energy that's on the field and if there's a
Mhm.
difference from looking at last year or the last 2 years to now, because I notice it in practice, but who knows? Maybe I'm just going to
Well,
practices where they
no,
feel
I
energy.
think that's a great observation, Ashley. That if you see more energy, emotion, more infused energy through Sala to the players, that's something they missed last year. They
Yeah.
didn't have anyone to be an emotional leader on the sideline for them.
Yeah.
And that's not Steve Wilkes. That's certainly not Kyle. So now they have a personality yin yang, which they lacked before, and now
Yeah.
they've got. And I think that Salah is going to give the team a lot of energy on game day on both ends, defense and
Yeah.
offense, both. That he's going to bring a lot of energy that they've missed and can feed upon. And I think that'll be a good thing. To start the year, the other thing that I would look at is because these rookies have power and that helps their transition to the league. I think that the the common theme of the rookies are going to take some time to figure things out. Yeah, maybe, but I think that these guys are physically dominant to start, and
Yeah.
that's where you need to be in the NFL. So I don't think that it's necessarily going to be the case that the rookies are going to need 3 to 4 weeks to ramp up to be NFL level players. I think that they can come out day one and have impact. They'll be inconsistent. That might be an issue, but can they make the play? Yeah, they can.
Yeah.
So I'm not as worried about that. I'm more worried about the mismatches. That do you have starter level people on all 11 spots on defense? No. And that's where the problem is. It's not the rookies, it's that you don't have starters at every spot. And
Yes.
when you
We'll get to
don't,
that in one
that can
second.
be exploited
We'll
big
get to
time.
that in one second because I do want to go over
Okay.
position groups.
Yeah.
Last question of the chat before we get to that next topic. Eric, I love that every single time you comment, it's in capital letters. I feel the urgency and emotion from your comments. Do we know if the joint practices are full contact with tackling? Absolutely not. No, they're not. Yes, we know. The answer is no, they are not. They are padded.
Yeah.
Every joint practice there seems to be some sort of tiff where there's illegal contact going on and people are
Yeah.
getting in
There's always a
fights,
fight.
and feels
Always.
like it's hot. They've been working their way through rookie mini camp, half of training camp, preseason is coming up. They start to get antsy and have irritation, both teams. And it's like, okay, instead of taking this out on my teammate who I actually don't want to injure because in 2 weeks we're going to be on the field, now I can go after this other guy and really kind of get that out. So we
Yeah.
often
Yeah.
see camp battles and camp fights, and I'm sure we'll see something similar against the Broncos and the Raiders. But
Yeah.
are they
Always
supposed to
happens.
be full force tackling? No.
No.
Will there be some? Probably, but no, that's not part of it. Same it's the same idea as when you're going against your own teammates in drills, just instead of the offense and defense knowing what to expect, the coaches are kind of talking, but the players, it's more simulating a game. The
Yeah.
coaches are still trying to get the matchups that they want, so it's still more contrived than an actual game because they
Yeah.
are talking to each other and saying, I want to see this guy go against this guy or these guys go against this coverage. The coaches are doing that, but the players are reacting more like they would in an actual game, which just gives the coaches a little bit of a better understanding of,
Right. The,
how
the
they're
the
doing.
purpose of it really is player eval to separate who makes the 90 and then the further cut downs after that.
Yeah.
It's more about I want to see the third stringer versus the fourth stringer in a similar context and evaluate who's better. That's what's going
Got it.
on there.
That's a good way of putting it, Tom. You're absolutely right. Okay. Moving on, we were talking about Injuries, I said Kyle, defensive tackle Evan Anderson out with a knee bruise. D tackle Kevin Givens, he had a pectoral, like a pec injury last year actually, and he missed the end of the season because of that. And he has that injury again. Kyle said he doesn't think he's going to be back till mid-season. So bye Kevin Givens. And then DN Sam Okuwanu has a groin injury on the sideline today. So I went over the guys who, were not participating in practice, but some of them you couldn't see at all, and some of them you could. Like I said, Nick Bosa was out there on the sideline. Brown, Garendo, Kyle Juszczyk, and Andrew Dillard were all working out with different trainers on the actual field, not like in the training room, which shows more promise for those guys returning sooner. If you're like in the rehab room, in the training room, not actually on the field yet, that means you're further behind in your rehab than when you're going on the sidelines and they're just trying to ramp up to make sure that you can have some contact. A guy who missed some of last week was Jordan James, running back. He returned. Interesting enough, when we talk about these guys getting injured, Kyle has mentioned this puts a lot more pressure on the guys that are healthy. So he had knee irritation that kept him out last week. He returned and then got like a ton of the drills today. He was running. He took like most
by
of the reps
default
of running back today because Christian had a veteran day. Garendo was out. Kyle Juszczyk was out. So they had like 3 running backs out there. So that was a little. He looked good.
But Jordan looked good.
He's healthy, but it's kind of it's like, oh, he just got back 2 days ago.
It's a heavy load, though.
Now you're
welcome back. Here's the ball. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, guys. But he's going to be key because if Christian goes down, who else you got? Patrick Taylor Jr. What else are you going to do?
I do want to highlight he's looked good. It was like for me seeing that he was like, being full force. I was like, damn, there's no ramp up. I think I told you Kyle said that thing about like medium day. He did not have medium day. He had
he had an all-out day again.
He had you're our guy today. So, but he, seemingly did well. So hopefully that continues and his knee's okay. Deandre Lenore returned. He was, like I said, back yesterday, but not actually like fully participating. He was back in the team drills. He had a nice pass breakup between I think it was Brock Purdy was throwing to George Kittle. So he's like fully, back in the mix, which is good to have Demo because he's, that secondary. I think when we go over position groups, secondary is one of the ones that I'm the most concerned about, although it has some of the guys with the most promise. But just when we talk about depth and injuries and needing them on the field, it's like, oh, as soon as you're gone, there's a big drop off. So that's it for most of like the actual updates. I thought it would be interesting for Tom and I to go through the position groups and talk about our confidence in them for the starters, for the depths, especially like as I said, tomorrow's an off day and then they're going to be going against the Broncos. So it's no longer like, our wide receivers look good against our secondary that has one healthy starter in it, so that'll be a little bit interesting, I think. So Tom, do you want to start on defense or offense?
Either way, you pick, Ashley. I'll just follow your lead.
Let's start with the quarterbacks.
Okay.
How do we feel about the quarterback group?
I think Brock has looked good. I want to see improvement in his decision making.
Yes.
So there are a couple of times when he'll force a throw and throw a pick, and I was come on, Brock. Part of that is camp. Part of that is you have to learn not to make that throw. So I want to see some improvement there. And I like that Mac Jones has taken to the offense well and is efficient. And I think that the team is going to get a lot of confidence from him in the way that he's playing in camp. And if he follows through with that in the exhibition games, that the team isn't going to treat this like they did in the past when Brock went down. It's kind of, oh, now what? I think with Mac Jones, you have more confidence on the team from a culture perspective of we think this guy can get it done. Letting go of Tanner Mordecai was a little bit of a surprise, but not that big. I mean, it's their plan is not including Mordecai long term anyway. So moving on there, I don't think was that big a deal.
For people who don't know, they released Tanner Mordecai and then they signed Carter Bradley, who's Gus Bradley's family member. I think that this means that they're probably only going to keep 2 quarterbacks on the actual 53-man roster, because they can definitely keep Bradley on the re-sign him to the practice squad
Yeah,
after,
nobody's going to be
or even go back
clamoring
out.
to get him. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
he can go on the practice squad, and it's not like he's going to get poached.
Exactly. But you're right. I think a lot of people were kind of hyping up Tanner. Tanner, if you look at him, he looks more athletic than like build wise than Brock Purdy or Mac Jones, but he just wasn't as accurate, and I feel like he wasn't as confident when it actually came to throwing the football. So looks can be deceiving in that way. I agree with you. I have confidence in the quarterback room. I think I will say today, Richie Grant intercepted a pick from Brock Purdy. I forget who he was throwing to, but he threw behind his target, and Richie Grant went up and was able to grab it. So
how long a throw?
Yeah. Purdy.
No, I know. How long was what was the yardage on the throw? Do you know?
I have Purdy was 10 for 15 with an interception and a touchdown pass to George Kittle in red zone drills. The intercept, so it was in the red zone, so probably not very.
Okay, so not that long.
Yeah. It seemed that Brock Purdy threw behind his target, and it went right to safety Richie Grant for the
okay.
Nick. So
okay.
The going right to the guy is the part that I'm like, stop doing that, please.
Come on now.
Stop doing that, please.
You're supposed to be better than that.
Yeah. So
he's open. Wrong guy.
Wrong guy. But he has been building good connections with
Pearsall.
Ricky Pearsall, and having a pretty good camp so far. And then I agree, Mac Jones has had, all beat reporters have said he's looked really good at executing the system. George Kittle has talked him up. Other players have said he's hilarious in the locker room. He's a team guy. They seem to be really getting behind him. Someone asked Luke Farrell, who was with Mac Jones at Jacksonville, and said, is this how Mac Jones looked in Jacksonville? Which I think is an important question, because in games,
it's a good question.
Didn't look good. So it's like, okay, is he just a good practice guy? And this was the same. And the guy said, no, he looks way better. So whatever.
Great.
I mean, he didn't say it exactly like that, but he said he's taking.
But he implied it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, which I actually like. Not that it's necessarily good he was bad in Jacksonville in practice, but if the idea was like, oh, he played just as well in practice in Jacksonville, it'd be like, okay, so it's a game problem. But knowing like, no, he struggled in practice there too. And like what you're seeing here, and the fact that you're seeing he's taken to the system well and executing, like that is a difference. So maybe you can also expect to see that difference on the field. Was my takeaway from that. So I like the quarterback room so far. Seems good. Now let's go to wide receivers. Wide receivers scare me because of the injuries.
Well, so you've got Ricky Pearsall, who can't stay healthy, Jennings, who's hurt now, Ayuk, who comes back in the halfway point of the season, maybe, Demarcus Robinson, who's gone for the first 3 weeks, and you've got Cowing is injured right now.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, there's no reason to be confident. The only thing that they can take hope and solace in is there's enough time for these guys to get healthy by the time you get to the Seattle game. But we're going to have to just wring our hands a lot during the preseason and during the exhibition games of hoping that this wide receiver group can limp into the regular season and at least have some guys. But it's worrisome that all of these guys have injury problems, and it doesn't seem like they can put them behind them. I like that Pearsall is looking good now, but the test for him is, can you now stay healthy?
Yeah. I completely agree. If I missed a second, it cut out on my end for a second, but I don't know if it actually did for you. Not you. I cut out.
Right.
So
no worries.
If I missed something, but what I wanted to say is when we talked about how Mac Jones has looked good, one of the reasons he's looked good, one of the guys he's been throwing the most to is Jordan Watkins. So that makes me feel pleased about like more of a depth piece, because I don't think Watkins, should be at least if other guys were healthy and the team was structured in the way that we want, I don't think you'd want Watkins to have a full workload right away. Now
But
we
he
might be
probably
in a
will
situation
have
where he
to.
is.
Yeah, he's going to have to for now.
Yeah. So I'm with you. I'm not super confident in the wide receiver room. I'm optimistic as a fan that they'll be able to work around it using the guys that are healthy and then utilizing running backs, tight ends, stuff like that. Like I think that they'll have enough pass catchers at the end of the day. But when we compare the fact that, 2 seasons ago, their pass catchers and their wide receivers were ranked as one of the top position groups in the NFL, that's not
And
what the 49ers are
that's
working with
not
right
what
now.
they've got now. No.
Yeah.
I do draw some hope, though, that when Ayuk comes back, and hopefully all these guys can get healthy, then they've got a solid group. But can they stay healthy? At least from the wide receivers, I think that the second half of the year is going to be a lot better than the first half. And the first half,
Yeah.
they just have to slog through.
Yeah. But you're right though, because a lot of this is also going to be a test of attrition. Like Ricky Pearsall
Yeah.
looks good now, but he's only been playing football for like 2.5 weeks compared
Yeah.
to everyone else, so it's like, can he keep this up when he's getting in the little mini car crashes week after week? I'm really interested to see how he plays against the Broncos players, how if he plays in the preseason game, then if he practices that next week and can fly to Vegas and participate in that practice, like that'll be the first time we kind of see like, okay, week after week, Ricky Pearsall's able to go, which we need him to. The 49ers need him to.
Yeah.
Same thing with Jacob Cowing returning. When he does return, how behind will he be? All reports were that he came into this camp in much better shape and that he was really understanding the system more. And he kind of went down as soon, after like 2 practices. And then it's like, okay, well, now are you behind?
Well,
It'll be interesting. Same thing with Brandon Ayuk. When Ayuk comes back, will he be, back to Ayuk when they paid him, or will he be struggling? And maybe if he ever does get back to himself, will that not be till next year? Or will he actually be able to be that guy this year? Robinson, does he get suspended for how long? All those factors have to go into what we think this wide receiver room will look like to start the year, the middle of the year, if they'll be able to carry themselves into the playoffs, stuff like that.
right.
I'm more
But
worried about the wide receiver room than I had been in previous years. I'll say that. Although
no question.
I feel hopeful that there is talent there. It's just like it feels like you said, like more we might see its peak towards the late season versus to start the year, which is not what we've been used to.
The first half of the year, it's going to be who's available, and they're just going to have to make it work. And given that, I think that Jordan Watkins might have to play an important role in the first half of the season.
Yes.
Because if he's healthy, they're going to need to use him. And Kyle has said good things, and he's practiced well, but he did run a wrong route in one practice, and that never goes well with Kyle. But I think this is the one year that, given how, especially with wide receiver group, given that you don't have options, Kyle for once is going to have to play rookies. Have to.
Yeah.
That's
Absolutely.
an adjustment he's going to have to make this year, especially in the first half of the season at wide receiver.
Now, I didn't go live yesterday, so I didn't talk about this. They did cut Isaiah Naylor, who I know some fans were really excited about. Certain content creators had really hyped him up. He had a really impressive catch early on in training camp. Back in mini camp, George Kittle kind of talked him up on the Bussin' with the Boys podcast. He's a guy, when he made a splash play, it was like a really athletic, impressive play, but he wasn't winning the majority of his reps. Like it was like a guy who was getting targeted 5 times, missing the ball 4 times, but then when he would catch the ball, it was like, whoa, that was such a athletic. So it was kind of interesting, and I understand why some people, like, it felt like the traits were there, but
but they didn't account for his actual game. That was the problem.
Yeah, I think at this
is
point,
that there were a lot of people who were saying, gee, 6'4", he runs a 4.4, he's huge, he's going to be great. No. The reason that he was mediocre at Nebraska, he doesn't sink. He's a 6'4" player, so he plays really tall.
Yeah.
In order to set up your routes in the NFL, you need to be able to sink and go. You need to be able to set up your route and then burst out of it. He
Yeah.
can't sink. He plays like a wooden soldier. He can't bend down. And as
This
a
is why they
result
have
of that, the
Tom
only
on.
thing that Nair
That's
can
when
do is go deep. And so when he succeeded in camp, it was go routes because
yes.
that's what he can do in the NFL level. He can't do anything else, and that's why he was cut. He
Yeah.
can't sink.
They let go of him. They signed Robbie Anderson, Robbie
I'd
Chosen.
much rather have him than Isaiah Nair.
Yeah, he's
So,
a veteran.
upgrade.
He's a veteran. He's participated. I flew in last night. I saw him in the hotel that I was in. He
Okay.
got in at like 9:30. It must suck to be like, as someone who, sorry, my lights just almost went out. I've been trying to plan some. I've like a really busy August, and my best friend Lacey really wants me to fly to Boston, which is just the bane of my existence because the flight is going to be so long. But I do love her and want to see her. But as someone who's been looking at flights and doesn't have to then go perform at like a professional athletic level, like I just have to live my life, I get like stiff. I don't like that. And I can't imagine flying on a plane, landing somewhere at like 9:30 at night, getting dinner at 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. and then knowing you have to be up at like 6 in the morning and you have to play well. Like it's like, oh, these guys, like I'm like, if I fuck up, they could cut, they're not married to me in any way. Like I gotta perform
Yeah.
in 6 hours. Like that seems
Right.
like a
And you're on a
difficult.
wet right. And on top of all of that, you're on a West Coast body clock
Yeah.
and you're being asked to play a game at 10 a.m. West Coast body clock time.
Yeah.
And
So
I don't know how the players do it. It's amazing. But that's the level, and that's where I think there's some respect that needs to be given is the level of a professional athlete to be able to do this and
yeah.
perform well
And
under
when we
those
talk about like
circumstances is really something. It's
when we
give
talk
them
about
credit and give them
injuries,
kudos for being able to perform as well as they do when they have to play 10 o'clock West Coast games.
totally. And when we talk about like injuries and stuff, I feel like every once in a while it can come off as callous to be like availability is the best ability and like you got to be out there and whatever he has to do. And I think like what I hope to highlight for fans when we're watching is like that's what makes these guys so kind of superhuman and special is that like the average person, not only do these guys like they're born with like a talent, like a speed, an athleticism, a strength that a normal person doesn't have, but even if you were to have that, the ability to be getting in these little car crashes, ability to be in these tight planes, and then the next day instead of being all stiff and sore able to perform at an elite level, like the stuff that professional athletes require of their bodies is like that's why they get paid so much, is it's not something that a normal human could do. So you're right, I have so much respect for that. When I was seeing some of those guys in the hotel, I was just like, it's
They're
I
huge.
feel like, yeah, and you really have to
Yeah.
prioritize rest and recovery when you're in these,
Yeah.
when
Yeah. Absolutely.
it's I feel like your life is like full of extremes. Like it's like, okay, go 100%. Now, like the rest of the day, I'm minimizing the amount of time I'm walking. I'm doing rehab. I'm doing ice baths. I'm like I'm performing from anywhere from 2 to 4 hours, and then I'm spending 10 hours just getting my body back to base level to be able to do it again. It's a full-time job just taking care of your body when you're a professional athlete. Uh, Moving on to running backs. Before Isaac Miranda went down, I would say I was kind of feeling a little bit confident. I will say everything that I've heard from the Christian McCaffrey thing is like he's healthy, but he doesn't seem to be wowing guys that he in the same way that he was in previous camps. I
Hmm.
don't know how much that has to do with like him not having that ability versus we know he's on a snap count and we know that Kyle Shanahan has really talked about like they don't want to be pushing him. Where in previous camps, all the reports have been like, a lot of veterans kind of try to take it easy, and he was just going 110%. So I don't know if he's at camp right now trying to go 110 and like
I
it's
don't
not
think
that he's
so. I
not
think
able
that
to, or
he's
if it's
aware that he
intentional.
needs to load manage this time,
Yeah,
but I don't think that he's going to apply load management in a game.
yeah.
He'll apply it everywhere else.
So
He'll
basically,
he'll take the Trent
I
Williams approach of having days off from practice.
yeah,
He'll take the Trent approach of not going 150% in camp. He'll baby himself to keep his body as ready as it can be. But once the games begin, he's going to want to be out there.
yeah. So I'm excited to see Christian McCaffrey go against the Broncos in joint practices and to kind of see him really turn it on, because I don't know if we've seen that yet in camp, but like I said, I think that that's probably an intentional choice. I don't think he's trying to do it and just like unable to. I think he's trying to be smart about when he
Yeah,
turns it on. And when I'm saying that, by the way, he still looks like the most impressive running back on the field. It's just I'm comparing like Christian McCaffrey to Christian McCaffrey.
right.
When I say that there's like a little bit where you're like, oh, it's didn't look quite the way it has in the past, but I think what you're saying is correct, and it's more of an intentional choice. So it'll be interesting when he does turn it on to see how that looks. Behind him, like I said, Jordan James has looked really impressive. He missed, I think, 2 days last week for he's participated in rookie minicamp, all of minicamp,
Right.
most of training camp, only missed a little bit of time last week, and then he's been back. So for the most part, he's been fully available and been able to participate in every way that they've asked him to, and looked fast and physical on the field. He's more of a downhill runner as compared to Isaac Guerendo, who, at least in the 2 practices that I've been to, Guerendo was getting balls thrown to him as a pass catcher, where I haven't really seen that from Jordan James as much. Either way, I
Yeah,
think the
well, use the
running
skill
back,
set of each. It's Jordan
and I
James
think
is a between the tackles runner. Guerendo is a guy you want to get the ball to in space in the passing game.
yeah, and he did that in college, right?
Yeah,
He like switched over.
both. Yeah,
And I feel like you've been suggesting, especially with all the wide receiver injuries, you've been suggesting that that is a way that they'll utilize him.
yeah,
Guerendo, I'm talking about, anyways.
if he's healthy. Yeah,
Yeah. So I feel confident I feel confident in the running back room if they can stay healthy, and if Kyle can be smart as in using 2 back sets. And you're shaking your head because it's
no chance, none. I wish I could say with confidence that they're both going to be smart. That Kyle and Christian will say that we need to prolong his career and therefore we need a rotation. No, because what we saw from Christian was he demanded to be out there as often as possible in the year that he got the Offensive Player of the Year award. And that was financially driven. He wanted to make sure that he got an extension. Same situation this year. He doesn't have guaranteed money going forward. He's going to want every stat he can get his hands on, and Kyle is going to enable him to do that. So what we're going to see is 2023 redux. It's McCaffrey's going to refuse to go off the field, and he's going to want to compile every stat he can so that he can get another extension. That's what his mindset's going to be, and Kyle's going to enable it because Kyle loves pushing the easy button. If I have a choice of putting Jordan James or Patrick Taylor out there and I can choose Christian McCaffrey instead, I'm going to choose CMC every single time, regardless of touches. So
yeah.
I don't think there's going to be any caution, any load management in games from Shanahan or McCaffrey. I think there'll be load management outside of games in
God, to
practice
prepare him
and
to go
taking
100%.
practice days off like Trent does. But I don't think that Christian is going to be willing to participate in a rotation this year when he's got contract on his mind.
I see what you mean. I can definitely see them doing that. It's like, okay, everything outside of the game, they do this with Trent Williams. Trent Williams takes a veteran rest day every single, like he doesn't even participate in the majority of practices during the season. And they might start
Right.
treating Christian like that, where it's like, we just want you to go 100% on game day. Everything else is about getting you to game day and getting you healthy enough to go 100% once game day starts. You're right. I can definitely see that. Papa J saying, don't leave these guys. I don't know who's talking or quote unquote killing the chat. But I really appreciate everyone who's in here. If anyone usually I try to keep a eye out. If anyone's being disrespectful, don't do that. And if I see it, I'll block you. Thank you. But I appreciate all of our regulars in there. I see Julie say so many what ifs this season. Yikes. I know it. When we're going
True.
through this,
So true,
that's
Julie. Great point.
it's like it could be a great year if
Yeah.
everything goes right, or it could be an even worse to equal year, miss the playoff year, which is a scary reality, especially when you do think that their schedule is set up to be so much better. But with the rookies and then the lack of depth and injuries that we're already seeing before the season has started, it's pretty scary. Steve-O is suggesting that maybe a way to get less injuries is switching to more of a passing team.
Yeah, but that's not Kyle. Kyle wants to run his wide zone.
Yeah.
Kyle wants to dictate the run to set up the play action.
Yeah.
That's the way he approaches it. So, I agree with you that that's what they should do. I don't think that's what they will do, though. The only way that he would is if it was forced upon him. If CMC goes down for the year and Jordan James gets hurt, then they've got nothing. Then they have to.
Last position group for the offense is the tight ends. How do you feel about, obviously George Kittle he's been healthy, he's looked excellent. Although
Yeah,
I did
he's looked
mention
good in
that
camp. I like what we've seen from George. I think he's been fine.
I did mention that concert that everyone went to, that George Kittle walked out. He chugged 2 beers, and then after chugging each beer, he slammed the beer can against his head to crumple it up and throw it away. And I know that a lot of people do that. Like, I feel like that's like a very like college frat thing. But if I was someone who's paying this guy $20 million to not get injured, that
Don't do
shit, he
that,
was like
George.
on a big projected screen to like millions
Yeah.
of people. That shit I was anxious and I don't love it.
Okay. I'm so bad. I don't even know who Morgan Wallen is. Yeah, I'm 65. And it's Earth, Wind, and Fire, Stevie Wonder, and everything in Japan now. Suisei, Yoasobi.
Love it.
Who this guy is or girl? I
think he was part of
I don't
that.
know. I
He's
have
part of
no
that.
clue. None.
In the 2010s when country music kind of switched over to be like country pop, country hip hop a little bit, like started doing.
Okay.
I feel like my dad, like if he were to hear that, he'd be like, "That's not real country. That's not real country." And I feel like Morgan Wallen is like the ring of that type of thing.
Okay.
But,
Well, not
on the
interested.
tight end,
Don't know. No clue whatsoever.
on the tight ends, I'm mostly kidding. Kittle has looked great in camp, and he's knock on wood been healthy. Everything that he said, everything that Kyle has said, everything Luke Farrell, who just talked today, has said.
He's
I
going to be
really think
important.
they're going to be
Farrell.
targeting Kittle more in the pass game, less or more in the passing game as a pass catcher, and they're going to be getting other people in as run blockers, which I like. Obviously, he's a good run blocker, so you want to have him in there sometimes. But I've always thought they should target him more, and definitely seems that that's their goal this year. So I'm loving that.
Yeah,
How
I
do you
think
feel
that Farrell
behind
was a
him?
smart signing for that. It saves Kittle's energy and
Yeah.
allows them to use Kittle more in the red zone, which is something they have to do. Unfortunately, I've got an online class I need to
I was
attend,
actually just gonna say,
so I got to get going.
I was just gonna say that because I saw the time. We ended up spending more time going through the position groups, which I loved to do with you because there was
We
a
can
lot of
get to the
details.
rest of them next time.
We got through the offense. Next week on Tuesday, we'll go through the defense, and we'll
Okay,
have
cool.
more insight because we'll have seen them go against the Broncos. So I'll let you sign out and I'll close it off. But I wanted everyone to make sure they go follow Tom NinerCast on Twitter. He has articles coming out. I know he's going to be talking about the Broncos joint practice.
Tomorrow late afternoon or into the next morning, I will have an NFC West preview of what's being talked up at camps, what to look for, stuff like that.
Perfect. And then when you get back, or when we get back together next Tuesday, we'll talk about the Broncos preseason practice and game and preview the Raiders game. And we'll continue with our ranking and we'll do the defensive position groups.
Okay, great. All right. Thanks, Ashley. This is a lot of fun.
Love you, Tom.
Love you. Take care.
Good luck. Okay. We had a couple more topics, but I feel like we ended up, being excited and giving a little bit more details on some of the stuff that we discussed. which I always like to do with Tom because I feel like he has so much extra information. We'll definitely go through each position group on the defense. I will say, as like a little preview, I don't feel confident at all in the safeties, at least until Malik Mustafa gets back. It's just been kind of a hodgepodge of guys there. No one is kind of stealing that job away, which is a little bit scary. People are getting Richie Grant got an interception today at safety. In the secondary, I'm glad today was the first day that Demo was back actually working with the team. Yesterday, he was back at practice. We had some confusion. There were some people in my chat yesterday saying, "Oh, I heard Demo was back." He was just back out on the sideline. He wasn't actually participating yesterday, but today he was participating with the team. So it's good that Demo's back. And Upton Stout, the rookie, has been the most promising rookie. I think even more promising than Michael Williams, but Robert Saleh has talked both of them up a ton. Robert Saleh actually had a press conference today, and on Michael, he said something to the effect of, he's going to be an excellent run stopper, setting the edge. He still is working on his pass production, which we knew when the 49ers knew when they drafted him. They actually felt this way about all of their first early defensive draft picks when it came to Michael, Alfred Collins, CJ West. All those guys are more run stoppers than they are pass rushers, and they have to develop that level of their game. So sometimes we see them struggle in that way, but they're huge, big bodies. They look like they belong on the field, which is impressive. Like if you see Michael, he looks like a veteran just from like an eye test. It'll be interesting to see as he can hone in on his pass rushing skills. If he does get sacks this year, I think it's going to be a lot of cleanup sacks versus him actually getting it. But stopping run is going to be a huge deal, especially in the NFC West. Kyler Murray's, face him twice a year. This year they're facing the Bears. Caleb Williams runs a little bit more. So Seattle, that's Sam Darnold. He doesn't run a lot. They're facing Houston this year. If they get into the playoffs, they might have to face, so that's CJ West in Houston. He can run. If they get in the playoffs, I'm sure Washington will be there. Jaden Daniels is a runner. So obviously stepping up the run game is going to be a huge aspect of this defense. The defensive line, in my opinion, has been the most promising part of the defense so far, even though there's the most rookies there. CJ West has been really impressive every day since the pads have came on. He's really shined. And then Upton Stout is really getting excellent reviews. So we'll discuss more about that with Tom next week. It was really fun being in Santa Clara the other day. For me, kind of like seeing these people but Nick Martin, you guys probably don't know this about it. I found it interesting. Nick Martin must play guitar. He was sitting after in his hotel room talking with his agents, two guys from his agency before they had curfew. It's so funny. These people make millions of dollars. They're grown adults. They're young. They're in their 20s, so they're still young kids. They're grown adults, and they have curfews, they have people who wait in the lobby and check in and make sure that they're actually signing in on time. And this isn't just before a game, but all throughout training camp. Like I said, they have 3 days of practice, 1 day off. The 3 days, I don't know if you guys know this, they don't go home at night. They have to stay in a hotel. So in that hotel, Nick Martin, he had a huge guitar and guitar bag, which I thought was kind of interesting to see that people all these guys have their different things that they get to kind of calm them down and transition them. On the field, you have to be these beasts and you have to be go, 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 go. But a lot of them have these little side hobbies that they do. Whether I think it was Navarro Bowman used to be known for he was a drawer. He would paint and draw, and it would help calm him down. Nick Martin, his thing apparently is playing guitar. So I thought that was interesting. Bryce Huff looked huge. I saw him and a couple other players. I was actually checking in to the room when I saw the offensive lineman that they ended up signing. I think it was Isaac something. I haven't actually seen him play yet, but it was when Colton McKivitz, they weren't sure if he was going to be participating today, so they signed him. And he was standing in front, and he had a Ohio State bag, and then he had a folded over piece of paper. And it's very obvious when you see an NFL player, they're big and, strong and jacked looking and stuff. And I think he might have even been wearing like a 49er sweatshirt. And I was like, oh, who's that? Who's that? And I was like I was like spying. I was like, he's like behind me. And I was like, that paper, because it was like folded over, like, so this has writing on it, but it was folded over like this. So it was just plain on the outside. So I was literally behind, like trying to read inside here. And that's where I saw the 49ers training camp thing. And I was like, oh, who's that? Who's that? And then when he went away, I tried to ask the person. I was like, oh, because I was like, oh, I could make a video about it. Be like, 49ers just signed that guy and like break the news or something. But the lady was like, we can't tell you that. And I was like, oh yeah, that's probably spying. But then like two minutes later, Adam Schefter announced it. So it wasn't, I wasn't trying to be creepy. But yeah, it was really fun being there and like seeing kind of how the guys interact, which guys seem to be kind of in little groups and talking together and confident, and other guys, they'll have their hoodie, after practice they have their hoodie and their headphones on and they're kind of in their own little world. And some guys seem more shy, it's just interesting to kind of watch everyone and watch how they interact. And like I said, seeing that setup where they have like curfews and they have to all get in by a certain time, just kind of interesting. And it makes sense. I mean, if you're the 49ers, you want them to be, the reason that they do that, in case you didn't know that they stay in a hotel, is because if you're at home, you might have a wife or a girlfriend or something who, she's going through something, so she needs you to be up and talk. You might have a kid who, can't sleep that night, or maybe your fire alarm goes off, something like that. They want you to be in a controlled environment so that you can be 100% for your practice days. So on your off day, you're allowed to sleep at home, but on the on days, they have you sleep in a hotel. And during the season, that's the same thing. Like during the season, the practice days, you're allowed to stay at home, but the day before a game, even if it's a home game, because I think a lot, like obviously people know if you travel, you're going to be in a hotel room, but even if it's a home game at, like for the 49ers at Levi's, they have a team hotel that they stay in the night before, because they try to, control as many variables as possible, which I found was kind of interesting. Papa J says, Ashley, do you have your mic on surround setting or direct setting? It sounds good. Oh, it sounds good. That's good. I gotta admit, I don't know. This mic used to have a little stand, and then I was going to a couple games last year and I would shove it in a bag and I like broke the stand off. So if you see that I'm holding it kind of weird, if I move this finger, this thing pops out because the little stand used to like shove it in there. And so I have to hold it super weird to like try to make sure it doesn't fall out, or else I mute myself. But there is this little button over here that says pattern. And depending on what I press, I think it will go surround sound versus just me. But I have to be honest that I don't know. But I'm glad it sounds good. Anyways, I really appreciate all you guys. We had a couple more things. So like I said, we'll go over the defense position groups next week. And then tomorrow's an off day. I might make a video tomorrow just going up, because we might have injury news for who's going to be participating in the Broncos camp. And then on Thursday, I'll definitely be going live after that. I actually have some work that I'm going to do in San Francisco. If you guys are interested in movies, I'm going to be promoting a film festival that's happening in San Francisco. I'm taking over their social media, so I'm going to be promoting that. So I have a work meeting with them tomorrow. But after that's when the joint practices will happen in Santa Clara. So I'll go to those in the afternoon, and then I'll be going live after the joint practice. The next day they'll have off so they can recover. It'll be interesting. Like, I wonder if Nick BOSA is going to participate in, I know he's not, I'm saying right now, I'll guarantee he's not going to be participating in the preseason game, but I imagine that they wanted him to participate in camp. So maybe they gave him the off day today so that he can be ready to go for the joint practice, because then he'll be resting on Saturday. Because I can almost guarantee Nick Bosa, Trent Williams, Christian McCaffrey, those guys are not going to be going in the Broncos preseason game. I think it's going to be more Mac Jones, Jordan Watkins, some of the new guys. Who did they recently sign? Alfred Collins might go. Some of the rookies might go. Oh, for you guys who are paying attention to the kicker battle, they released Greg Joseph yesterday, which was annoying because they've been having a kicker battle, and Greg Joseph has made more kicks than Jake Moody has. It was only one more, but he was winning the kicker battle, and they ended up releasing Greg Joseph and keeping Jake Moody. So I'm sure that they're going to have Jake Moody kicking in the joint practice and in the preseason to try to put as much pressure on him as possible. Kyle says it's still a competition, like he's still not guaranteed the guy who he's competing with. They said that it was just because they needed more bodies because so many people are out with injuries that they didn't have the luxury of keeping two kickers, but that Jake Moody is still competing. And if he basically does bad, that they'll just sign someone off the street. They just don't have someone actually kicking with him. But if I was Greg Joseph, I'd be frustrated because you brought me into to be in a kicker competition. I was winning the kicker competition. Like Greg was winning. Like they've had Matt Naoko, Matt Barrows, everyone. They actually stopped practice. It's kind of interesting. In previous years, the kickers would just go on their own, like during practice, they were just performing. But it's so clear that Jake Moody's main problem is pressure, that in practice, they're trying to simulate pressure in a way that they haven't in previous years. So they actually stop all the practice and make everyone who's on the field watch the kickers kick. It's so they didn't do this last year. Like normally, all the position groups are working out at the same time. So wide receiver drills are going on at the same time that the defensive line drills are going on. And at the same time, previous years, the kickers are going special teams drills are going on while everyone else is. This year, they stop everyone and everyone watches the kickers kick to try to simulate pressure. It's a smart idea because Jake Moody's main problem is pressure. He's reworked his kicking strategy though. Today he was 5 for 6, so he missed one of his kicks, and his kick was that he missed was 55 yards. The only problem is I feel like his actual kicking structure was not his problem. Like everyone has always said, he has such a strong leg. Like in practice, he could make stuff. It was in games when he felt pressure that he would like mentally spiral. Apparently instead of getting a therapist or something, which I'm sure he does have, but he changed his kicking motion, and now he's missing the kicks that he used to be able to make because now he's taking like 6 kicks. He's like stepping multiple times back and then doing like 3 steps forward instead of just 1 and then 2, which is normally what kickers do. So Jake Moody's still on the team. It'll be interesting to see what he does, and if seems like that kicker battle was pretty rigged. So I don't know what he's going to have to do, but hopefully if he does miss in the joint practices that they don't, keep him around. And I'm not trying to shit on Jake Moody, but it's like you're trying to build this team up. You need to, if you're in a position where you're in the red zone and you're not able to get the touchdown, you have to have a reliable kicker. So I'm not trying to be an asshole to Jake Moody. It's just like if there's a guy off the couch who can do a better job, you can't just keep this guy because you don't want, your draft record to look bad. But UCSB, anyways, I just got a notification that my mic unplugged, so that's really good. I was just telling Papa J about my mic, and then it unplugged. Anyways, we'll be going over a lot more of this with Tom on Tuesday when he comes back. But like I said, I'll be going live after the joint practice. Might be a little bit later on in the day since I have some work stuff to do before that. And then so that's on Thursday. Friday is going to be off day, and then I'll be going live as soon as the preseason game is done on Saturday. So that'll be really fun. Everyone, please like and subscribe. Join me for both of those lives because I really appreciate everyone in the comments. And I think we're going to learn a lot more in these preseason games since so many rookies are going to be participating, since so many guys are injured. We're going to see more starter level players than in previous years where it's been, way down the, 5th stringers, 4th stringers, 3rd stringers. There's probably going to be starters playing in these games because right now so many guys are injured. They're going to be, calling on these guys. Obviously, like I said, there's going to be certain starters that they're reserving. It hasn't been announced, but I would put money on right now. Kittle's not going to be, in the game. Nick Bosa is not going to be in the game. Trent Williams not going to be in the game. Brock Purdy's probably not going to be in the game. But it'll be interesting to see Jordan Watkins. How does he look? Upton Stout might be playing. That'll be interesting to see him actually going against other wide receivers. Upton Stout, Albert Collins, Mac Jones. Mac Jones will be really interesting because if Brock Purdy gets hurt, can they rely on him? All that will be interesting. Please give me a like on this YouTube video. If you haven't, leave a comment. That really helps my channel. I appreciate it. And like and subscribe. Thank you guys so much. This was a really fun stream, and I always really appreciate Tom for joining me. So give him a shout out too. Have a good week, guys. Bye.